everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Tonight we're going to be talking about episode 8 of season 5, Hardhome. Man, what an episode.
Great stuff happened. Lots of fights.
Man, oh man, that was exciting.
It was hard.
And a home.
That home, I would never want to live there. I mean, it sucks.
Yeah, the wildlings are stupid.
I mean, imagine if John had arrived, like, the day after that.
Oh, that would have been...
John
Oops.
Yeah, good thing that 6-month journey and we happen to get here right now. Done. Good intro.
I know,
that was the worst intro ever.
Way too long. Alright guys, what did you all think about this episode? I thought it was a lot better than the last half of the season.
It finally feels like the season is going somewhere. Tyrion and Dany finally...
They finally get to meet, and that was awesome.
Yeah, they finally meet, they finally have a conversation. They kind of, talk about, hey, we had messed up dads, and hey, look at that.
Yeah, they had some bonding experiences. I mean, the conversation went pretty much all about as we had expected it to go, but I still found it very satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you finally got the payoff of these kind of major pillars of kind of characters in the story. Like, hey, they finally meet. I wasn't disappointed. I mean, but I do feel like you're saying, like, we knew where it was going, so there wasn't much they did that, like, that was, on the edge of my seat. Like, their witty repartee. It's like, yeah, we knew that he was going to...
In fact, I thought the more witty part, or interesting part of our whole meeting was when they first arrive in the little courtroom, or throne hall, whatever. Yeah. And, like, to see how Tyrion played that. Because he basically has to, one, become hand to the queen, two, probably try to save Jorah if he can, but also... try to make sure he's not around to subvert his actions and becoming... So he played that perfect. Yeah. He did not betray Jorah, kept him alive, but also got him out of there, and also made himself second in command to...
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of like misgivings about what is Dany really getting out of it? Like, we know that Tyrion's brilliant, and we know that he is a worthy, kind of advisor. But if you are the queen and you've never met some guy, like, I'm just going to meet it. But in that scene, he did a good job of showing why he is worth her, her attention and advice. And, like you said, he had to do all those kind of things at the same time. And it was something that we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't really know what was going to happen to Jorah. So I think for that reason, it was also a little bit more interesting too, right? Yeah. But just their all that interaction was awesome. Good stuff.
Also, I would like to point out that Barristan Selmy's death kind of, I mean, it paved the way for Tyrion, because he said, like, you have nobody else from Westeros.
Yeah, and then you're like, that's why.
That's why he's dead now. Perfect. I mean, he should be dead.
It wasn't worth it at all.
No. But, I mean, it didn't surprise me the way that Tyrion was able to kind of, like, keep his composure and, explain, because, I mean, that's how he gets out of every situation. It's just classic Tyrion.
If he was any less intelligent, he would have been killed, like, 1,000 times before this.
Definitely. He'd definitely be dead. I think this episode really is diverging the most from any episode we've had in the series from the source material.
Right, and honestly, it kind of comes as a surprise that it turned out so well, because I've been a very big proponent of, I don't like the stuff that's not, really pulling from the source material. And so the whole Jon journey, I thought, was kind of unneeded, but ended up being a really, really big payoff.
Before we get there, one last thing is King's Landing, right? I mean, we didn't get a lot there, but I think it was important, the Cersei scenes. Couple things, as we know, Kevin's coming back, her uncle, and that she's still awful. Yeah.
I guess I'm satisfied, or I'm happy that she's getting her comeuppance, but I kind of just want her to either, like, this slow torture isn't, like, it's like, where's this going? It's not gratifying enough for me. You know what I mean?
The thing is that, like, it's gratifying because we see her in physical pain, but she is such a good villain that that's not enough, right?
Exactly.
So we see her, like, starving and just, like, she has to drink water from the ground. Like, oh, God, who cares? That's the worst that you have to do?
Yeah,
that's too good for you, right? Because we still see her so resolute in her mindset. And we know that until she's broken, it's not going to be quite as satisfying until she realizes how awful she is and that she's wrong.
She has to realize how awful she is. We know.
She's like, I have to confess. And we know, like, okay, she might confess or whatever, but I don't know if she's ever really going to, like, think she's, right? It's
it's always going to go back to, I did everything for my kids. I did everything to keep them safe. And I wasn't able to keep them safe, so it just made me protect them and do crazier things.
So you think even if she was, like, just straight up killed, and if she doesn't,
yeah,
before her death, doesn't acknowledge to herself that she's terrible,
yes.
You're like, no.
Well,
I'm not. Well, I actually do agree with you. I agree with you.
That's true for a lot of villains. I mean,
yeah.
Well, my question would be, because she probably has a list of horrible things that she's done. Where does she start? Like, what's the number one thing? Like, she's like, oh, I got to go through, like, step by step what I did wrong. She's done a lot wrong. I feel
it's interesting too because this whole season, if you remember, started with her flashback. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously the scene's not over yet, but I think there's a major significance of like where she started and her mindset and kind of that mentality. So it might be interesting. You know, I'm saying that we're not gonna to see that turn. Yeah. Maybe she actually will. We have her as this young, just like so self-righteous, and I'm gonna be queen one day, and blah, blah, blah. And we haven't seen that mentality really switch yet, but maybe that's going to be in the coming up episodes. Who knows?
Yeah, I would be excited to see. Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to talk about is Arya's storyline is one of my favorite this season. Just like whole House of Black and White. And I thought there was like really, really good push forward in that and how she's learning to be perceptive of the world around her and learning to embody another character to really like Jekken.
And you see that she's not absolutely 100% perfect, but like even when she messes up, it doesn't faze her. She keeps her composure, and she didn't do that the first time that Jekken was like disciplining her.
I mean, it's kind of interesting too because like in general, when we feel these stories kind of have less significance to the greater plot, we usually get less interest. But hers is kind of this weird kind of outlier because right now there's no bearing on any of the other stories in the world. Right? She's off doing her completely own little thing with no like effect on anything. But at the same time, it's almost maybe because it's so isolated and it has its own kind of path on its, like, you know, that's separate, that it is a little bit more interesting. It's like so strange and weird to us. It's not all these like political machinations and like it's a little bit refreshing maybe in that sense.
It is because it's also going back to like a simpler story, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on. There's all these convoluted interweaving storylines, but hers is very straightforward. Like there is. In her own personal world, it's complicated and difficult for what she has to figure out. But it's simple for the audience just to follow it and to be invested in what she's going through.
Yeah, it's easy to latch on to her character journey in that. Right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One final thing we have talked about before the big battle is the Sansa Theon scenes. Because I think that was really important leading up to the final two episodes because we finally see Theon/Reek give a little bit of information, kind of go back to his old self. He finally told someone other than Ramsay that he didn't.
Yeah, and I think you had called it, or maybe Sean, a couple episodes ago, that like, he's going to tell her. He's going to actually tell her that they're not dead. And now we finally see that get to happen. Yeah, and I thought that was a really gratifying moment. So it's like obviously we kind of still a little bit hate Theon, right? I mean, there's still a little bit.
I don't know if you ever like. You pity him now. It's
more pity.
I don't know if it's as strong as hate, but it's a lot of pity, and you're not really quite sorry for him yet, or you know.
Well, I don't think anyone has hated Theon since season 2, really.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't ready to exactly forgive him. I don't think he deserved the torture he was given, but I think now, I don't know why, this episode was really more of a turning point, and me ready to kind of like let that go and say, you know, maybe you can do some good still.
And also, too, just from Sansa's point of view, it was finally good to have her finally get some good news, like imagine, like. Yeah. Oh my God! My whole family's not dead. Like just that simple kind of little piece of information, you could see how much of an effect it had on her. So that was cool to see. Yeah. Too.
One final thing to say about the Theon thing, because Theon believes more than anything that he is broken and unredeemable. He can't come back, and just kind of pairing it up to like Cersei, maybe she believes that she can't be broken, and she's just so strong in her. Like it's almost like polar opposites. Like you want to see one fall down, and you want to see one rise up. Yeah. And it's like. I am assuming by the end of this season, they're probably going to have not so much a role reversal. I don't know if it's
completely, but you might see some more
a shift. Yeah, definitely. That's a good comparison.
Good note.
Good job.
I wanted to say those words, and I did.
Why do you always
now the Valyrian steel?
Well, that's the only weapon we have.
That means you made a good point. If I try to kill you.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
When he finally kills you, that means you've made the best point.
Didn't you kill me last episode?
Oh, I've killed many things. Speaking of killing things,
boy,
man, there's a lot of dead wildlings.
A lot of expendable wildling, fodder characters. You can just kill them off as many as you want.
I mean, that scene. I think we all were surprised. I know I was about how. I mean, this episode. I think all the other stuff was kind of good, but man, this episode, because of that, really just like blew everything out of the water. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. If it's maybe the best battle scene so far, I think I might like it more than last season's wall battle.
Yeah.
I think partially
Really?
because it wasn't the entire, like, it was a little bit shorter time, so it was a little bit more concise, a little bit more, straight into the point, and also because it was something we hadn't seen before. Like, we had seen the White Walkers and the zombies a little bit, but most of the fighting has always been between, men fighting men and normal. But this was like, oh god, this is 10 times more than like Walking Dead type zombies. Like this is like we've never seen anything like this.
It's really funny that you say that because when I was watching this, like, oh man, Walking Dead, their entire thing is zombies. They don't know how to do zombies. This is how you do zombies.
Like in one episode, they completely made like threatening and scary and interesting and exciting and like.
And pretty much up to this point, we hadn't. I mean, like, yeah, we know the White Walkers because okay, they're really hard to kill. We know that. And we've seen them one-on-one, basically, and we know that they're numerous. But we didn't know what kind of threat they pose until now.
Yeah, this is the first time we have seen the White Walkers go up against an army, technically. Like a technical army, and they just get absolutely slaughtered.
Yeah.
I mean, like, at this point, it's almost like, why even bring the wildlings back? Obviously, you guys don't stand a chance. Just run.
They all suck.
Just bolt south as fast as you can.
Maybe he's like, he is asking them to also fight. But really, John's like, no, I just don't want to fight more White Walkers.
Like,
Let's get them out of here.
I think it's kind of like all of the stuff between the different clan leaders and stuff was cool because you do see like how good a leader John is and how he isn't necessarily just like giving him lip service and blah 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 blah. But I think at the end of the battle, when you see them all stand up, you really fully realize what John was fighting for. And he had said a couple episodes, like, I just don't want to fight them. We can't fight them. But until that scene happens, you're like, oh man,
John was right.
Yeah, he was right. Oh god, this is gonna be bad.
Yeah, that was such an effective scene. That was so just well shot and really well done. And it was kind of sad that they introduced some little other characters, and they were like, I wanted them to be introduced into the show as permanent characters, like the girl from DSM. Yeah.
Look, that's just a taste of things to come, though. I mean, imagine if the White Walkers truly do march south, get past the wall. How many of our favorite characters are going to just instantly just get turned into...
Rob Stark will be back.
As great will be Rob Wynn. So he'll have the direwolf head and he'll have the reanimated corpse body. Man, okay, that last shot where it had like just all those kids standing there as zombies.
Oh, yeah.
And like that one like boy who was like, he didn't have just so skinny.
Stuff,
How did they do that?
This is the most frightening thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. And the action too. Like there was, it's funny because the rest of the fight scenes we were complaining about, but I don't know if there's a different director, different cinematographer, but it was really awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Like there's one long shot of like John just like going through and just like cutting zombies up and stuff, and everything was cut. Like it was a really well done fight scene,
Yeah.
I mean, it was more than a fight scene, but
right. And we get to see him, the Valyrian steel cuts through them.
Yeah, well, the Valyrian steel is an important thing because this whole, I think I was mentioning earlier, but they've been talking about Valyrian steel throughout the series, and it's kind of this fantasy thing, like mithril, and it's like, ooh, it sounds cool, but it doesn't mean anything. No, like whatever. But now it's like, oh, it means something now. And so all those swords that we've heard about, Oathkeeper and stuff, and Ice before, but
and
Longclaw, like now there's even more significance to those, and not just like that they embody, those people and what they stand for, but they have a practical use now, and you can kind of just imagine like, oh man, they're gonna have to gather all these Valyrian steel swords.
I don't think they're gonna do that.
They're not, but you can kind of.
If this was Lord of the Rings, that's what would happen.
Exactly. Well, it just seems it's a cool like added thing because again, and that's actually something not in the books for the book readers. They had never mentioned that Valyrian steel can kill the White Walkers. Beyond that too is I just like that last scene we talked about where they're sailing away and not rowing. By the way,
do you think that was like he deliberately let them go? He was like, "Look, this is what I got.
Kind
Let's
of.
see what you got."
But I think there's an aversion to that. Like there was like it's one thing like the zombies, they're just mindless zombies going, but like there was he was looking at Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I know who you are now. Like there's a malice behind that. It's not just a simple, instinct to kill or whatever. It's like there's a plan. They're after them.
Okay, viewers, we want to know what your favorite battle sequence was in all of the Game of Thrones episodes.
become any stage of White Walker, which one would it be? Would you just want to be like a simple grunt, or would you want to be one of those guys that has like half their body and half skeleton, or do you want to be one of the like generals with the big staffs, or do you want to just ride a horse?
Yeah, one of those undead horses look cool.
Yeah. So you an undead horse is an
I'd
option?
want to be an undead horse.
I would. Yeah. I'd ride you.
That's actually thinking.
No, don't say that.